Hello everyone, Sam from Cinch here, and behind me I have BMW's new iX. It's all new electric car, not just in design and those front grille, we'll talk about those in a second, but also the underlying platform. This is the manufacturer's 5th generation electric car technology. It is packed with new battery technology, loads and loads of carbon fibre interestingly, and a whole lot of interior technology, driver assistance systems, you name it, this car has it. Where should we start? Well, I guess to begin with, we should talk about this as a car with 520 horsepower. It weighs 2.5 tons, but because it is massive and it's got a big battery aboard, it's got some serious performance. But actually, the main focus of this car is to keep BMW right at the front of the electric car race. It's got just under 380 miles of range.
It can fast charge to 80 miles in about 10 minutes.
With a 200 kilowatt plug, so it's about 70 kilowatts off of what the market leaders at the moment can do. That's cars like the Porsche Taycan, for example, but it's right there at the moment. Should we take a little closer look? Let's see what this car's all about. Well, I guess, should we start down here? What do you think about these? I mean, now that we've got cars like the BMW M4 out, they're gopping, aren't they? But they're not particularly surprising. I don't think any of us were too surprised to see enormous grills on one of BMW's biggest models, but they are completely fake, which is probably what makes them even more divisive. There's no openings in here whatsoever. This is a fake pattern. However, it does serve a purpose. This is packed full of sensors, everything that enables this car to be as autonomous as it can be at this stage in our technological arms race in the manufacturer's world. So you've got cameras all around here to go with all the other extra bits, as you can see on these other blanked off spaces. Believe it or not, despite being such a butch-faced SUV, because it has not many openings and because underneath, most importantly, it has a flat floor where that battery is, it's actually got a drag coefficient of 0.25, which is comparable with sports cars that are much slipperier in appearance. But that's the way these cars are going nowadays. Now, obviously, it's a big piece of metal, but there's lots of carbon fiber in the structure. We've spotted carbon fiber down here. There's carbon all around the battery, so it's stiff. It's 2.5 tons, but it's rock solid. And they've kept the design quite simple at the back. I actually don't dislike the back end. I think it looks quite sporty, quite aggressive with those protruding bits in the bumper there. And because this, as I said, is the 50 model, there's a 40 as well they offer, it's got 520 horsepower. I mean, this thing is supercar powerful, but of course, all-wheel drive, big heavy battery in the middle. Is it gonna handle great? We'll test that in just a second. Shall we take a little look inside the car? Because actually, it's really nice. It's very luxurious. This car starts at over £90,000. A lot of screen there. It's basically the double screen layout that we see across a lot of the manufacturers now. Mercedes, of course, doing something very similar as well. But it's a really nice design. It's curved glass. Jaguar Land Rover were really proud with their curved glass screens. BMW is now doing that as well. Really open, loads of space. I mean, no transmission tunnel, so you've got all this room down here. I mean, it just feels really lounge-like, I suppose. And the seats also add to that. It's really soft and cushiony. The steering wheel design is nice and simple. So it's a really nice place to sit. We've only spent about 5 minutes before we filmed this bit in the car, but it's lovely. Straight away, you just feel comfortable and like there's loads of space. This is a pretty commanding position. And actually, I've set the seat, I think, to what my favorite position would be. And I do feel quite upright, but actually everything is positioned really well. Of course it would be. BMW knows what it's doing with this stuff. All the controls are just a finger reach away, and the steering wheel having fewer controls actually than some of the rivals. It all just feels like you're not going to spend much time thinking about what you're doing, you're just going to crack on. So this is quite a cool feature here in the infotainment / supercomputer. BMW's sat-nav system here actually displays your range against like the map you have. So here you can see with the current range that we have, I mean, it's listed, it says on the screen 281 miles. This car's claimed to have just under 380 miles. It is a brand new car though. I think it should get a bit more range, and I doubt it was being driven in the most efficient way when it was parked up last. But anyway, with the range that is listed here, if I can get the UK to be the correct way around, you can see how far you can go. Where we are now in Farnborough, in case you hadn't guessed with all the planes behind me, we can get, look at that, almost down to Land's End down there. And we've got, we can even get out close to Brussels as well. So we're really, you know, it illustrates really clearly where you can go. And I guess if you were the sort to say, where should we go on holiday today? Just jump in and say, well, we can make it to Liverpool with this much charge. As I said though, with this car's fast charging system, you wouldn't have to wait that long anyway. If you found a fast charger, you could obviously top this car up in probably as little time as it takes to have a cup of coffee. Right, so that's the basics covered. Should we get out on the road and see how it drives?
Before we hit the road, let me just take a second to highlight the number of electric cars we have in Cinch, all of which can be ordered online and delivered to your door. Happy days.
Now obviously the iX's main talking point, at least as far as the internet conversation has been going, has been that exterior design. But actually what matters in this car is how it drives, because this is first and foremost supposed to be a sensible, practical family car. It's got the interior space roughly of an X7, despite the fact that the exterior is more comparable with an X5. So you're getting a lot for your money in terms of space, and that's partly because there is no transmission tunnel. Obviously the battery's on the floor, but actually it does feel so spacious in here. I mean, I've been driving it out into the country. It's very comfortable, really calm, and I feel really airy. You've got this extended screen above as well, which can be frosted, so you can have a bit of privacy, but also at the same time, it just adds that lightness to the interior. Even on a dull day like today, the car feels really, really spacey and really nice. And actually, I think one of the first things you feel when you get into this is actually just how familiar everything is. I mean, it's all new stuff on this interior, but BMW has evolved essentially its previous controls. So it's all very easy to get used to, especially if you've been driving BMWs of late. And it's very hard to actually not find a setting you're not immediately comfortable with when it comes to the seating position, when it comes to the menus and the layouts. I was happy within maybe 45 seconds. So that's a really, really big tick. But how does it drive? Okay, straight away, car rides pretty nicely. It's a very firm structure, this part aluminium, part carbon fiber structure, and it's very visible carbon fiber. You can see it along all the sills. It's really cool. You open up the back passenger doors and there's a big slab of exposed carbon fiber. So it feels really proper. And it does feel like it's a very stiff structure when you're driving it around. There's absolutely no sense of, you know, the bottom half of the car being rigid and the top half hanging on. There's no old Land Rover Defender feel in it at all. This is a stiff shell, but yet it rides really nicely. This being the 50 model, the xDrive 50 iX, it has standard fit air suspension. That gives it so many advantages, as you'd expect. It means it rides really nicely over bumps. There were some of those really small plastic speed bumps I was going over earlier, and the car just really softened off over those bumps. But then again, when you come up to bends and stuff with a bit more speed on, the car remains settled and composed, doesn't feel top heavy at all. It does roll a bit, but that's fine. You know, it is a big, tall SUV. I'm sat in a commanding position. There's nothing else in this interior to tell me that it would handle like a sports car. But it does have loads and loads of grip. Standard fit all-wheel drive, obviously that's standard because it's got two motors driving across the two axles. Clever torque vectoring, all of the bits and bobs you'd expect of a very, very modern 21st century electric SUV in BMW's 5th EV generation. Everything feels really intuitive, and just cruising around as I am now on a country road, I can sort of roll from accelerator to brake and be really smooth with my driving. Steering's nice. It's quite light. It weights up when you start to carry a bit more speed into bends. I sort of powered off a slip road earlier and I could feel the steering weight up, but it feels natural. It's not like an on and off switch. There's just a gradual change in that weighting. And I like it. I think it does help, because otherwise you find yourself, especially with big cars like this, if you do catch a bump that you're not expecting and you've got power on, 520 horsepower, this thing gets up and goes really quickly. That much power, that much movement. If you hit a bump or something, obviously you could get thrown around a bit. It might make you make a few mistakes with the steering. So having that slight weight actually helps you be smoother. And as I said, that's kind of what this car's all about, right? You're supposed to be rewarded and kept comfortable when you're driving this car, you know, in any road scenario, basically. We've got it in sport mode now, so no paddles on the steering wheel here to try and, you know, adjust your regen. You do that all within the menus. But now if I hold back a bit, ooh, that's quick. That's quick. Ooh, we have to get on the brakes straight away, otherwise my license is going in the bin. Yeah, it's quick. I mean, it's not Tesla Model S quick, obviously. This is 2.5 tons, but it's quick enough. I mean, the delivery is just instantaneous. It's just straight there. And I mean, I went from 40 to the legal speed limit very, very quickly. So I don't think anyone's going to complain about the speed. Interestingly as well, the sound is tuned differently in your different modes. In your normal mode, it's very quiet. There is a sound, but it's very, very quiet. Whereas now, again, if I let me slow down, see if you can pick up this on the audio. Anyone who watches Formula E, that's Formula E-esque, isn't it? And I don't think that's not a coincidence. BMW obviously is involved with Formula E. So I think they've tuned in a bit of that racy single-seater electric car sound to it. It sounds good, it sounds nice. Not spaceship-esque, it sounds, I don't know. It's definitely not fast fridge freezer. It sounds like a sporty electric car, so I'm quite happy with that. Let's see if we can find some corners now so I can start putting those claims about handling to the test and try and illustrate to you just how composed this car is. There's loads and loads of grip. It doesn't come on high performance tyres. It's got a tyre, specific tyre as an electric car. Oh, that's quick. See if I can find a bend for you. Okay, obviously we're coming into a village, so this is the least convenient time to talk about that. So let me talk about some of the technology in the car first. So firstly, the screen I really like. It's really sharp. I actually was starting to believe, okay, Jaguar, Land Rover, their curved screens now are so lovely in their latest range of stuff. I think it feels where Audi have always had that, just like you have loads of tech in front of you. Jaguar, it's telling me off to take my hands off the wheel, fair enough. Jaguar started to add that kind of lounge-like feel to its interior. Honda-y as well, no, totally different class, but really nicely done with the way they have their screen, and it just feels really nice. And I think BMW now has joined that party. This is a really nice layout. The graphics are really sharp. You know, the desktop background, if you will, is just quite cool. I think it's like some mountainous dunes or something there. It just all feels really, really quite nice. And I can feel the car, by the way, talking of technology, I can feel the car decelerating as I come up to a roundabout. And that's because this car is 5G connected. It knows where you are and the road scenarios, and it understands how to adapt the electric motor and the battery. So now I've come off the power and the car's just coasting because I've got a clean road ahead and there's nothing in terms of like roundabouts or anything ahead of me. So now I'm just rolling like I'm in a normal automatic car. But then when I came up to that roundabout, came off the power, and the car really started to decelerate for me to the point where I could have one pedal driven around that roundabout. So that's all really helpful, and a sign that technology is always there, always monitoring and always deciding what's best for that scenario. That's going to be a really, really big win, I think, for people who are buying this sort of car, of course. Okay, let's do a launch while the road's empty, shall we? Right, let's do a launch. Foot down. Ooh. That's 60, right. That's quick. It's quick enough. 2.5 tons. Not even the slightest hint of slip, because it's, well, firstly because it's pressed down into the ground with enormous amounts of help with that mass. But the way it puts the power down, everything is just foot down, gone. It's super slippery out here, but you just wouldn't know it. It's greasy and the road is dirty and mucky from farm traffic, and you wouldn't know it. This thing is just bolted to the tarmac. I can't believe how much grip this thing has, actually. It's insane. It's insane, with so much performance and so much torque to be instantly deployed. And it's just completely super glued to the surface. Strong brakes, doesn't feel like I'm working it hard. The car just doesn't feel like any of this is a workout. Even if I'm on and off the power, onto the brakes, off the power. Things that normally, you know, 2.5 ton vehicle, you would have thought would start to get a little bit warm around the pad, but no, it's pretty good. Let's try this. Yeah, loads of grip, just so much grip. I wonder if we can go a bit green laning. I mean, obviously not properly. Let's put it on this bit of gravel here, this bit of dirt. Put my foot down. You can feel the systems there. That was quite interesting. I could feel the systems because the left side was very slippery. It basically, the traction control in this car and the stability systems are so intelligent that I don't even know they're working anymore. It's amazing. Like that surface there was so slippery, and I put my foot to the floor, and instead of scrabbling and then cutting the power and then scrabbling and then cutting the power or doing something like a more conventional system, it just put down the perfect amount of power for that scenario, which obviously was far below the 520 horsepower that this thing can do. But it just meant that I didn't feel like the car was under any form of stress. It wasn't fighting itself, it was just, God, it's so quick to react on the front end. Brakes are good as well. Nice and progressive brake pedal. I like that. It's easy to modulate, easy to not over brake, and it's easy to allow the regen system to just automatically balance out the power and the regen it's trying to grab to top up your battery. Right, well, that was a very brief first drive, nature of the beast on these media days, but I did learn a lot today. This BMW, this iX does handle impressively well, actually, and it's comfortable with that air suspension, standard on this 50 spec car. Massive tyres, but enough rubber I think there to make it feel quite supple, quite comfortable. Really, really refined. Loads and loads of carbon fibre, as I said, in the structure, so it's very stiff. Doesn't feel anywhere near as sporty or like sports car-like as, say, a Jaguar I-Pace, but I don't think it wants to be. It's more comparable with the Audi e-tron, and I think versus the Audi e-tron, this car does just have slightly better control weighting, the steering's a bit nicer, the brake pedal pressure is just easier to regulate. It just feels, well, a bit more like a BMW, and I think they've kind of nailed that brief. Even now with this fifth generation electronic technology being so complicated, it just feels nice to drive. But this is always going to be a family car first and foremost, so I think it deserves a closer look at this side. I've been really, really keen to show this bit off. Look at all that carbon fibre down here. That's super cool. It's exposed. They could have painted it, but they knew people are going to be impressed by that. It's still matte as well, it's not too shiny, and there's so much space in here. I've got the seat set exactly where I was before, and look at that. I mean, I'm not far off 6 foot, and that is super, super comfortable. I can squeeze my feet under there. Loads of room, loads of headroom as well. Super comfortable place to be. And these sporty seats, they actually have 2 USB-C chargers in there as well, and actually something I presume is used to clip in a screen or something like that. It's definitely not an ashtray, I can tell you that much. So that's quite cool, and then you've got all of this storage space and also a screen down here. Just a nice place to be, really. I think as far as family cars go and family space, that is electric by the way, obviously, and you've got your AC and DC ports in there. So, but as far as family cars go, this thing, it's massive and it's got loads of space. And you've got storage space under here. This boot is enormous, comparable, not far off the X7. And you've got bits of storage space under there as well, and your bag for your wires. So that's a job well done, really, as that stuff goes. And obviously, little nifty things like that here, 12 volt port here. It's got everything you'd ever need, really, for a family car, but so it should do at over £90,000 starting in this specification of car. That's a lot of money. Of course, a lot of people buy these cars now paying monthly anyway, but still, this is definitely up there in the higher end of the premium SUV sector, isn't it? So, good car. I like it. Didn't want to like it because I didn't like the front grills, but I do like it. Fair play. Well done, BMW.
Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to click that thumbs up button, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and maybe you should click that bell notification button because we've got a load more videos coming up in the coming weeks. See you soon.